In 100 million years or so, where I'm standing might be in the middle of a new ocean basin. We are on a Geological Society of America field trip at Isla del Carmen, just off the coast of the Baja California Sur Peninsula. And this is one of the best places in the world to see how plate tectonics, ocean formation, and life are connected. To understand how this island formed, we have to go back around 30 million years ago, before the Baja Peninsula separated from the North American continent. At that time, an oceanic plate, the Farallon Plate, was subducting beneath the western edge of North America. And as the plate sank into the mantle, it triggered melting, and that melted rock rose to the surface to form a chain of volcanoes, or a continental volcanic arc, which we talked briefly about in my recent video where Sean Wilsey helped explain how the Baja Peninsula formed. In this video, we'll focus on Isla del Carmen, which back then was part of that volcanic arc system. How do we know it was part of that system? The same way we know anything from 30 million years ago. The rocks. The rocks here on the island are part of the Komandoo Formation, the same formation Sean and I explored on the peninsula. This formation contains a sequence of volcanic and sedimentary rocks that record different environments within this ancient volcanic arc system. From the core lava flows and proximal volcanic debris flows to more distal sandstones and conglomerates. And together, these rocks tell a story of a large, persistent, and migrating volcanic system. In fact, the distal volcanic sedimentary deposits are overlain or covered by more proximal volcanic breccias and lava flows due to a multi-million year southwestward migration of the entire volcanic arc system. It's thought that this migration was driven by what's called slab rollback. In other words, the angle of the subduction of the Farallon Plate beneath the North American continent started out shallower and then became steeper, or kind of rolled back over time. And because melting and volcanism is induced by the subducting plate, the location and depth of that plate below the continent ultimately controls where the volcanic arc is located at the surface.
If you make the slab more steep, the volcanoes will move towards the trench, move towards the coastline with time. So that process is thought to have happened here in northwest Mexico during Middle Miocene time. And what happens is, in time one, at the bottom of this diagram, you have the core of the volcano way off into the continent and shedding off in both directions. I only show one half here. In both directions are what we call proximal facies. So in the core of the volcanoes, you're making lava flows, you're building volcanoes. But next to those volcanoes, you're shedding off these giant, thick, massive deposits, andesitic debris flow deposits, calc-alkaline and chemical composition, all related to the subduction zone. Those deposits are getting finer and finer grained in a more distal facies, getting reworked by rivers. So you're depositing sandstone and conglomerate that's made up of the same pieces of the proximal facies. So basically, it's all kind of a connected system that's sourced from the volcanoes, and the deposits are getting kind of more and more sedimentary and less volcanic as you move away from the active volcanoes. So imagine taking that three-part facies, and if you remember from Walter's Law in your SED Strat class, taking all those facies and marching them out towards the southwest as the slab is rolling back. You would put the core of the volcano on top of your proximal facies, and the proximal facies on top of your distal facies. And so today at Isla Carmen or Loreto, if you take a slice through the earth, you can have all three facies in one location stacked on top of each other. That's the kind of fundamental concept of Walter's Law. Any laterally adjacent facies in one time can be stacked vertically on top of each other over time. And so we call these three facies the lower Komandoo, middle Komandoo, and upper Komandoo.
So this slab rollback and associated westward migration of the volcanic arc led to this vertical succession of rocks, which formed from around 30 to 12 million years ago. But then, around 12 to 6 million years ago, the regional plate tectonic regime changed. The compressional subduction eventually transformed into oblique rifting. Note the pun there. Meaning that instead of being pushed together, the crust began sliding, stretching, and pulling itself apart, marking the beginning of the Gulf of California rift system and the separation of the Baja Peninsula from mainland Mexico. And on Isla del Carmen, you can actually see this tectonic transition from subduction to oblique rifting preserved in the rocks. The marine limestone, sandstone, and conglomerate here records the early flooding of the Gulf of California. Some of these deposits formed in fault-bounded basins as the crust was actively stretching and blocks of land dropped down along faults. In fact, the entire Isla del Carmen had at one point dropped down below sea level along some of these faults, and this led to the deposition of marine sediments on top of much of the ancient Komandoo Formation. As the Gulf of California continued to open and marine conditions became more stable, life started to take hold, and the rocks here preserve fossil-rich limestone. There's even evidence suggesting that sediment once came from the Baja Peninsula before tectonics separated them. In other words, the rocks here show that before Isla del Carmen was an island, it was connected to the peninsula. And that's just funny because before the peninsula was a peninsula, it was connected to the North American continent. However, there's two important details about this system that I think are important to touch on to avoid confusion. One is that the rifting here that separated the Baja Peninsula from the North American continent is not just rifting. As we talked about in the last video, it's actually about 80% transform motion, or just side-to-side movement along the plate boundary, and it's only a little bit of actual spreading or separation, which is why we call it an oblique rift zone. But something we didn't touch on in the last video is that Isla del Carmen is separated from the peninsula in a different way than the peninsula is separated from the main continent. There's not actually a rift zone between Isla del Carmen and the peninsula. There's not actual oceanic crust forming between them. Instead, they are separated purely by water and low land. Essentially, as the rifting began further out in the Gulf, normal faulting began on either side of that rift, including the eastern margin of the peninsula. Thus, as the crust has stretched, blocks of land have dropped down along these faults, and this is what happened here on Isla del Carmen. The land between the island and peninsula has dropped down below sea level, allowing the Gulf to fill the area with ocean. But, as I mentioned earlier, Isla del Carmen itself had at one point dropped below sea level. So how and when did it come back up to where it is today? Well, after millions of years of marine deposition, the island began to rise, likely within the last million years or so. The field trip guides explained that you can have both downward and upward movement along these normal faults. We call the block of land that moves down along a normal fault the hanging wall, and the one that stays still or moves up the footwall. And it's thought that Isla del Carmen had been a hanging wall along one fault, but then another fault formed and it became the footwall and actually started to move up. This is, of course, an oversimplification. In reality, there are many faults in this system moving things up and down, but ultimately the upward movement or uplift of this island is still going on in a kind of protracted process. In fact, we can see features on the island called marine terraces, which represent ancient coastlines that record former sea levels. Scott, one of the field trip leaders, called them bathtub lines on the island, which I thought was a really helpful analogy. Some of these terraces now reach tens of meters above sea level, showing just how much the island has risen. And we can use the thicknesses of these terraces and their rate of deposition to estimate how fast this uplift is happening, which turns out to be around 0.1 to 0.17 millimeters per year. So don't worry, if you come here, you're not going to be actively shoved upward. And after all that complex geologic history comes the biological story. Today, Isla del Carmen is a hotspot for biodiversity. This combination of a semi-arid desert environment with a rich marine ecosystem in an isolated island setting is rare and creates really unique conditions for life. The volcanic rocks influence soil composition, water retention, and plant communities. The uplifted terraces create coastal habitats, nesting areas, and microenvironments for life. And the isolation of the island allows species to adapt and diverge. Even the tectonic history matters because the timing of the separation of this island from the peninsula affects which species made it here and which didn't. So when we talk about the biodiversity here, it's all been and continues to be shaped by geology. So after a long story of subduction, volcanism, rifting, ocean formation, uplift, and evolution, Isla del Carmen is a reminder that Earth is constantly changing. With that, if you want to come on an expert guided field trip for yourself, check out the link below for upcoming GSA trip dates and locations. See you out there. Bye. Oh, and I forgot to mention there was another guide. Well, actually, there were 2 other guides on this trip that were all about the biology side of things, because it was a geology and biology trip. And so they covered both the terrestrial and the marine biology. And so I will have either 1 or 2 more videos coming out after this one from this trip about the biology, and again, I'm going to connect it back to geology, don't you worry. But anyway, it's going to be super cool. We actually got to take a sample, or see how one of the guides, Adrian, took a deep Gulf of California sediment sample, and he sent a GoPro down like 600 feet or 200 some meters down into the Gulf to see what was down there, and we caught some really weird deep sea life on camera, guys. It was so bizarre, and if you want to see that clip and others, he's going to send me others, I hope so. If you want to see that, stay tuned for those videos. Okay, bye.